From the Center for the Study and Teaching of Writing at The Ohio State University, this is Writers Talk. I'm Doug Dangler. Today I am here at the Ohioana Book Festival, the 2013 edition, and I am talking with Casey Daniels, whose inspiration for her first novel, Supernatural Born Killer, came from a job rejection as a tour guide in a Cleveland cemetery. Is that right?
Yes, but I have to correct you because it's not my first novel. Supernatural Born Killer was my 44th, actually.
44th. You know, there's not a lot of difference between first and 44th when you can't read the cards.
I like to think there are.
Yeah, it's just, if you've done 44,
what's another one? You're right.
So how do you get to 44? What's the secret for writing that we can tell everyone how, and then they can all write 44 novels?
Well, if they want to write 44 novels, I'm not sure there's a secret. I think in my case, it all comes down to being adaptable and being willing to sort of roll with publishing punches. Publishing, especially lately, is so unsettled with electronic books and just lots of things coming up and making publishing go crazy. So I actually started my career writing historical romance. And I wrote historical romance, I wrote some contemporary romances. I wrote one children's book, I've written some young adult stuff, but the whole time I was writing those kinds of things, what I liked to read were mysteries. Okay. So that's when I finally started writing mysteries. Supernatural Born Killers, the one you mentioned, is the 9th in the Pepper Martin mystery series. Okay.
Sorry, you know, and on my notes, I don't even have first novel. I came up with that. I invented that on the spot.
You write fiction.
Right, so I am writing. You have inspired me to write fiction.
I'm good.
That is excellent. That is true.
I'm magic.
So you are now writing the Pepper Martin series, and it takes place in a cemetery.
Yes.
Right. So it says in your bio, it was a job rejection.
Yes, well, I love cemeteries. I like to hang out in cemeteries. I think they're fascinating.
Do you take other people with you?
Oh, you bet I do.
Okay.
And sometimes they actually go, wow, I see why you like this.
Sometimes. What's the percentage of the...
50-50, I'd say, actually.
And
which isn't bad.
What do the other people do?
The other ones say, I'm going to go wait in the car. Yes.
And what do you do while they're waiting in the car? Perform rituals?
I look and no. Phooey. I look and I explore, and I love the art and I love the architecture. And if you look around, and especially things like family plots, and you start looking at names and dates, and those two people died 2 days apart. I wonder what happened. You know, you start creating stories, and I just think it's fascinating. There's just a lot of interesting things in a cemetery.
So, do you have expectations of what your own cemetery plot will look like?
I really don't want to be buried in a cemetery, so that's really interesting, isn't it? No, I think cremation and sprinkle me over the tomatoes, you know, because at least I could do some good then.
Right, and that's several years because you got to be cautious with how much you put on a tomato at one time.
That's true, so I'm good for a long time. Bumper crop.
The gift that keeps on giving. This has gotten a little darker than I anticipated. I thank you very much for that. So you call cemeteries museums without walls.
Yes, they are.
For those reasons. But it seems like you've got a limited number of artifacts, right? Do you ever look at, I mean, you've got certainly a lot of headstones, but how many are all that different? And to inspire you to write stories, do you run into a lot of really odd, unique things?
Well, it's the people, really, more than, more than the headstones.
It's the people.
It's the dead people.
You know what makes cemeteries great? It's the people.
It's the dead people everywhere.
They're fantastic.
Because my heroine in the Pepper Martin series investigates mysteries for the ghosts in the cemetery. So plop her into any cemetery, and she's good to go for a long time.
She's a people person. So tell me about some of since we're at the Ohioana Book Festival, are there cemeteries in Ohio that have really inspired you, or do you have to go elsewhere?
There are fabulous cemeteries in Ohio. The cemetery in my book is called Garden View Cemetery, which does not exist. There's a cemetery in Cleveland called Lakeview Cemetery, which is a very grand, gorgeous, privately owned cemetery. So there's a lot of Lakeview in Garden View in that it's very large. There are a lot of very prominent people buried there. But I like the old city cemeteries in Cleveland too, many of which are fairly run down at this point. My Garden View Cemetery is sort of an amalgam of all those great places. There are fabulous cemeteries in Ohio. Get out there and go to a cemetery.
Get out there. That,
Pack a picnic. No, I'm serious. 2 Memorial Days ago, I got the family together. I plotted the cemeteries where great-great-grandpa was buried, and we took the cheese and crackers and a bottle of Baileys, and we toasted everybody. We had a great time.
So now, do you spread the blanket out on top of it?
No, we didn't. We just kind of stood around and told stories about the people that we knew there, and drank a toast to them.
That's funny. And you're making me think for the first time whether cemeteries have rules about whether you can have alcohol on them.
Well, we didn't exactly knock on the door and ask. But no one seemed to mind.
No one seemed to mind. Okay, so you've gone through all these different genres, contemporary romance, historical romance. You're writing mysteries now. Is there a genre that you haven't written yet that you think, I'd really like to hit that next?
Well, I have not written sci-fi, and I don't think I could, just because I think what scares me about sci-fi is there are no rules. You can do anything in sci-fi, and I think I need a little more of a parameter than that.
That's really interesting, because I would bet that there are sci-fi authors who would say that about the paranormal.
Probably,
right? Like, what sci-fi, we've got, it's all mechanistic, it's based on things, whereas in the paranormal, ghosts, anything goes.
Yeah. I would like to try steampunk, though. I think that'd be a lot of fun.
What attracts you about steampunk?
I think the Victorian part of it, because my historical romances were all Victorian. I'm a sucker for Victorian England. So give me a guy in a top hat, that's it. The chimney sweep comes over, I'm in love.
You have a chimney sweep that comes over in a top hat?
Uh-huh.
Really?
Uh-huh.
I've never seen that. That would be...
calling the wrong chimney sweep.
I don't have a chimney.
Oh,
so
well, there you go.
I don't have a fireplace. So when you're looking at your next novel, right, how far out there are you plotted? Now, or do you have your 45th?
In addition to the Pepper Martin series, I'm also writing 3 other mystery series as Kylie Logan, under that name. So I have one series called The Button Box Mysteries. That's about a woman who owns an antique and vintage button shop. And of course, people die in button shops because,
well, why wouldn't
they're
you?
button shops.
Right, yeah.
And then starting in June, I have a new series starting called The League of Literary Ladies. It's set up at South Bass Island, Put in Bay. And books about books are very popular right now. So this is a book about a book discussion group, but they're a little different because they are a court-ordered book discussion group. They're neighbors who hate each other, and they're always taking each other to court. And the magistrate decides if you're ever going to get along, you have to learn to talk to each other.
Was this inspired by real-life events? Is this something that you...
my neighbors adore me.
Okay, well, I just meant maybe in the newspaper that you read about this.
No,
I wasn't accusing. I don't want to be charged with that.
And this particular series, The League of Literary Ladies, the first book is called Mayhem at the Orient Express, and each book is based very loosely on the classic book the women are reading. So they're reading Murder on the Orient Express. There just so happens to be a new Chinese restaurant on the island called the Orient Express. So I'm currently working on book number 2 in that series, and you can guess what they're reading. The name of my book is A Tale of Two Biddies.
Oh, okay.
And then my next new series starts in October. It's called The Chili Cook-Off Mysteries, and it is, interestingly enough, about chili cook-offs. First title is Chili Con Carnage.
So does the title come first and then the story for you?
No, usually the story,
okay.
And then the title is one of those things you walk around the house going, I'll come
Chili Con Carnage.
Yeah, so that one was kind of inspired, I think.
Yeah, that's nice. It hasn't been done before, huh?
Not that I know of.
Oh, that's excellent. So you've got all those going, and we'll look forward to seeing those you said one in the summer and a new one in the fall.
One in Mayhem at the Orient Express in June, Chili Con Carnage in October, and a new button box book called Buttoned Up in December. That's it for this year.
That's it. Well, it's only, 3?
Well, and there have already been 2 this year.
So, if you're going to have a slow year,
I know.
That's fine. I've never written anything, so,
Well, you wrote that fiction about me in my first book.
I did, the first book.
Yes.
So, Casey Daniels, thank you very much for being here today on Writers Talk. And we look forward to all of your novels coming out.
Thanks. See you next year.
Okay. And from the Center for the Study and Teaching of Writing at The Ohio State University, this is Doug Dangler. Keep writing.